His numbers on Sunday were borderline abysmal. I mean, 12 of 18, 139 yards, a touchdown, interception, and a fumble. The week prior, against the Chargers, he also was pretty abysmal besides one big throw. And for me, the bigger conversation about Mac Jones comes down to I just don't see any improvement, man. And this, I certainly don't have the most rosiest of feelings for Mac Jones, and I'll be very upfront about that. But from week one to right now, I've seen no progress whatsoever. He is exactly who he thought he was in the pre-draft process, with him being the most pro-ready, getting an offense in sync, moving the ball at 3 yards a clip. But I haven't seen any progression at all whatsoever. And I've seen it out of Justin Fields last night, who seems to be coming along fairly well. I've seen it out of Trevor Lawerence. Obviously, he's buried on a really bad team and a bad roster and a complete idiot of a head coach. But even he has shown incremental increases in his game. And for right now, for who Mac Jones is, I am a little bit on the concerned side, so that's why I'm taking the Browns. And let me ask you though, have you seen much of Mac Jones? Have you seen anything? Am I being a hater here, as Burge would call it? Because I get my initial bias against Mac Jones, and I don't want to I want to give the podcast listeners another view as well. That's what we do around here. We're all about journalistic integrity. So I want to ask you, Puma, what's your thoughts on Mac Jones as a passer?
I mean, right now, like you said, Jay, this is kind of, this is what we were billed, and by we, I mean New England fans, because I really don't care. But
I like it. I like the honesty. Thank you so much.
But I mean, this is what everyone lauded the kid about was, he's the most pro ready. He's played in a pro style offense at Alabama. He's tight with Nick Saban, and I mean, everyone thought that San Francisco may or may not have traded all those draft picks to go up to get him. And looking at what Kyle Shanahan's done as some of his coaching decisions the last couple of games, I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, and as much as people wanted to bury Justin Fields, like the kid, like you said, Jay, we saw it last night. The kid, he had a rough start in the first half of the game, but as the game started to go on, and Matt Nagy finally had to admit we need to use the strengths of Justin Fields, and that's moving the pocket immediately. Like if he doesn't see the reads, like just run, like just get something going, keep the chains moving kind of deal. We saw Justin Fields start seeing the zones a little bit more clearly. They started getting Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham going up the seam, and he had a great connection with the tight ends doing that, got them into the red zone. Those were big boy plays and big boy drives to possibly win the game. So I'm seeing enough out of Justin Fields right now that if he can overcome Matt Nagy, and God willing, the Chicago Bears finally cut bait on this buffoon, the Bears are going to be in good hands. And let's be honest, they're probably going to have a franchise quarterback for the first time since Jim McMahon in the 80s. With Mac Jones, he's the safe pick, air quote, the safe pick, like the quick underneath throws, the high completion percentage, what the New England Patriots want to do as an offense. But you're going to have to push the ball downfield at some point. You can't just dink and dunk your way Alex Smith, death by 1,000 razor blades. You're going to be playing from behind from times. Your defense may not have its A game that day, and you're going to have to throw the team back into the game. Right now, I just don't see Mac Jones being able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and one of the guys on Boston radio put it very well today. Obviously, Mike Felga, as we call him. But he said last night's fourth quarter for Justin Fields was way better than any quarter Mac Jones had so far, and I wholeheartedly agree with him.
Yep.
Justin Fields ended up with like 120 yards in one quarter and a touchdown, and he looked really good. He took command of the offense, and so far I've seen nothing special out of Mac Jones, and I hate it. I hate the fact that we see all these young stud quarterbacks around the league, and I know how I felt 8, 9, 10 weeks in with Kyler Murray. I know how I felt 8, 9, 10 weeks in with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert last year. And I just don't feel any of that with this guy. And a lot of times you can tell early on what a quarterback is going to be in the NFL. There's very rare cases that 3-4 years down the road you become a good quarterback, and the only 2 cases that I can point out over the last 10 years is Alex Smith in year 3 or year 4, and then Josh Allen in year 3 last year being really good. So at the moment, I'm really, really disappointed in what I've seen out of Mac Jones so far. Sure, he's fine. He's the middle of the pack, safe pick right now, and he's just doing the bare minimum, but I wish I would have seen some more improvement. And hopefully, as the second half of the season comes around, we can see some more out of Mac Jones.
Hell, we might see it this week because Baker Mayfield ain't playing around. Like, he might throw it for like 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, you might get yourself in a hole if Mac Jones ain't safe with the ball and puts it on the ground a couple of times. He might be playing from behind. So, we're going to find out a lot about Mac Jones this week, especially with Myles Garrett breathing down his neck, too. So,
well, and the one thing that I've noticed, and Stephon Gilmore did a good job of this, Stephon Gilmore last week picked off Mac Jones because he knew what Mac Jones' tendencies were. And the league is starting to catch up. The Chargers did this a little bit where they took away Jacoby Myers, his first safe pick, and they made him go through that second and third progression. And he seems to completely freak out when that happens. The second you ask him to go through his second and third progression, he really, really has this hard time finding an open receiver and then driving the ball late. Usually with your first receiver, the ball can be thrown with anticipation and time. When it comes to second, third receivers, you've got to put more oomph into it because at that point, the defense has time to recover a little bit while you're running through your progression. So that's something to keep an eye on, and especially with what Denzel Ward did with the Browns against Joe Burrow, how quick that offense is, how much heat Myles Garrett is going to put on Mac Jones and essentially speed up his internal clock. I think if he's not careful, we could be looking at another couple turnovers again because at the moment he's having an issue with ball security as well. So I'm hoping, man. I really wish Mac Jones would show us something that we can be excited about, but at the moment I just don't see it.